So I think I'll just go through my phone here and find some kind of topic.
In this podcast, we don't have any introduction. There's no name.
Yeah, get fucked, you cunts.
Yeah, no name, and I guess the no swearing thing has gone out the window, and we've been doing 20 seconds.
Sorry.
20 seconds in, and
I don't know. We still need some sort of topic, so I'm gonna try and find one. And there's all right, debunking 5 myths about teaching English.
I think we should introduce ourselves.
You want to introduce ourselves?
I think we should let people know who we are.
Do people really care?
No, but the reason that you do something like this is so that people will care.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, you gotta obviously we don't have an audience today because we just started doing this today. So we have no audience.
Okay.
I don't even think we're a good audience. You're my audience and I'm your audience.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, let's try this. Okay, wait.
All right.
Okay. This is our podcast. This is either the first episode or it's sort of a test episode.
Yes.
Just to see how it works, because we might go through and watch it later and realize that it's just terrible.
That is true. I think also we should start by a name. I like broad opinions abroad.
Broad opinions abroad.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of cheesy though.
It's cheesy.
Yeah, it's really cheesy.
Broad opinions abroad.
And it sounds sexist, maybe.
Well, that's because, yeah, okay.
Because of the word broad.
Broad.
So someone might be like that. And there's no broads on this show.
Yeah, okay.
Plus, there's a show called Abroad. Do you know that show?
No.
It's like, I think it's made by the same network that did An Idiot Abroad.
Oh.
I think my microphone, I think I need to adjust my microphone.
So
I'm going to bring my microphone lower.
Abroad.
Abroad is a show about a girl that goes abroad.
Well, this is basically a podcast about 2 dudes that have gone abroad.
I'm fixing my... Okay, this is what I think we should do. Okay. So we're broadcasting from my apartment. We're in Shanghai, China.
We are.
I didn't prepare for this.
We haven't
prepared at all.
No.
I think there was a 50% chance we were not even going to do it at all. So we're just like, okay, we'll just sit down and we'll just record and see whatever happens. So I'm from America.
And I'm from Australia.
Yeah, I've been in China for, oh my God, how long have I been in China? 2 years. I've been in China for 2 years.
Yeah.
No, 2 years and 3 months or something like that.
Well, whatever it is, I've been in China for 2 months.
3 months.
3 months longer than you.
Yeah, 3 months longer. I think you were here for 3 months when I first got here, I think, or something like that.
So Richard and myself used to live in the same apartment. Not in this community.
Yeah.
Somewhere in this community.
It's like 2 blocks. 2 blocks in that direction. What is that? I don't know what that direction is.
Over there, that way.
Over there. Can you do the north, east, south, west in your head like that?
I don't think so.
My wife can do that.
We're in your house, and I'm not really. I can do it in my house.
Really?
Because I know where the sun comes up and the sun goes down.
I just don't have that mechanism in my brain.
But you don't know what side where the sun comes and
my
goes
brother
down.
Can go to the wilderness without a compass and just like walk around for days at a time. He claims he doesn't use a compass and he just sort of knows his way around. I would die. I always fancied myself like a wilderness type person, but I feel like I would just die because my expectations of myself are much higher than what I'm actually capable of,
Yeah.
I did last in China though. I'm still alive.
Yo, China is the ultimate wilderness, isn't it?
It's like an urban wilderness.
An urban wilderness.
So we've been here for what, 3 years?
Nearly.
2 years. I don't know what that is, but it smells kind of bad. It's underneath my coffee cup. We've been here for 3 years teaching English. I feel like every time I say that I have like a tinge of like, it's not guilt. I don't know what it is. It's not guilt. It's like embarrassment. Is it the right word? I don't feel embarrassed about it. I just feel like, you know what I mean? You never look up and say I'm an English teacher. You always look down.
I don't really care either way. I've gone past it. I've gotten past it. It is one of those things like, I believe I read something yesterday, or I was speaking to my girlfriend yesterday that like I have the job because it's a color of the skin thing, and we're being moved out. Native English speaker teachers are being moved out by Russians and Ukrainians anyway, because
I think they're cheaper to hire.
Yeah, because they will work for half the money I will work for, and they'll work longer hours.
I think their work ethic is a lot better too.
Yeah. See, I haven't lived in Shanghai proper this whole time. I've left and come back and left and come back.
How long were you
again.
gone? I remember you left for like a year, right?
Yeah, I was probably gone for just over a year of this time, but I spent time in a smaller 4-tier city, I guess, maybe even 5-tier.
What was the name of it?
I lived in a place called Jinjiang in Fujian.
That's right.
Near Xiamen. And yeah, that place, because they can't get native English speaking teachers that want
Do
to
they
live
pay
there.
more or less there?
They paid more than my first job here at the school for about the same amount of work.
Yeah.
But I knew some like 18-year-old guys from Romania that would work all day in a kindergarten and then would have from say 2:30, 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock at night off, and then would work all night at a training center and all weekend. So 7 days a week, you're looking at about 12 to 14 hours a day, except for only 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday. And they would do that for 8,000 RMB a month.
But they were teaching, because the thing about the white skin is that, you know, it's not just about the skin color, is it? It's you know, people are really into the idea of accents. Like some people prefer the American accent, or some people prefer the British accent. Does anyone actually prefer the Australian accent?
I've had one family that has employed me like private tutoring because their children were going to go to school in Australia.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But usually, you know, the things that we're teaching, well, especially the things that I was teaching in a training center, because I don't work in a training center anymore. The things that we were teaching in a training center is pretty much easy to be accentless. Like, I can.
Can you say apple?
Apple.
Can you say apple?
Apple.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's all right.
You know,
But how do you naturally say apple?
Apple. It's an apple.
You don't say apple.
I don't say apple.
Apple.
But see, they're so little and they don't understand anything that you have to slow that down anyway.
Yeah.
So you can't. How you going, mate? No,
That's true.
See, even if I was, when I first started going out with my girlfriend, and you might have experienced this when you first started going out with your wife, until you get used to each other's accent, like you needed to slow down and speak more basic, even though they are very proficient in speaking English.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting for the first few months. I had to really. She never had to slow down. I never had to slow down, but I had to be hyper focused on what she was saying. You know, like it was. It wasn't. I guess it was her accent. I don't even really hear it anymore. I don't hear the accent anymore. But I did sort of have to, and I corrected her. I always was correcting her. I think that bothered her. But she actually takes my corrections in, you know. She internalizes them. And it makes me feel bad because she always, you know, corrects my really, really bad Chinese. I know like 5 Chinese words or something. And she corrects me, but I never remember anything. So she's a much better like learner than I am, I guess. She's much smarter than me. Like she has... You know, she's fluent in both languages. I've been here long enough where I should probably at least have a rudimentary understanding of the language, and I just don't.
Yeah.
And I always blame it on my wife, you know, because like I met her 3 months after I got to China, so she's been like my interpreter. You know, she's been the person that sort of has helped me out, and I feel like because of that, I wasn't able to learn. But the reality is. I know other people from America. I know another guy from America. He taught himself how to speak Chinese watching movies. He basically just watched Chinese movies with English subtitles for like a year. This is what he says. I don't know if this is true. This is what he says. And he learned just basic Chinese, and then he went and tested it out with taxi drivers and people he met on the street. He would just approach people and talk to them. And that's how he learned. And he learned in like a year.
Yeah.
And he's, from what I have gathered, he's pretty proficient in the language. He's been here for a little over 5 years, I think. So whatever, I'm like halfway there and I know nothing. you know, he learned more in a year than I learned in 2 years. I mean, like significantly more, you know.
Yeah.
I think you have too. I think your Chinese is better than mine.
Well, my Chinese, like, I just spent New Year's at my girlfriend's family's place, and
Yeah.
going back to accents, some conversations that I can have with her in Chinese, like simple things like I'm going to have a shower, I'm going to sleep, like, what are you doing, where are you now? Like, her parents couldn't understand a word at first when I first went there. Even something like, they would ask me.
Her parents already understand English though, a little bit.
No, they don't speak a word.
So it wouldn't matter what accent that you had.
Well, the fact that they would ask me something like, "Ni ma," and I'd be like, "Oh, chubala," like, "No, I'm full. I've eaten," and I'd just be like, looking around like, "什么意思啊?" And I'd be like, and it's something that I could say to people here, like in a restaurant, and people, "Oh, it's simple, it's basic."
Yeah.
But they weren't used to it, and I don't think they've ever had a foreigner speak to them in Chinese. You know, like,
Yeah.
So for them, they could, and then towards the end, they were understanding, and they were also understanding how to speak to me in Chinese. See, they couldn't speak to me like an equal. They can't speak to me like an equal.
Yeah.
Because I basically have the vocabulary of a 4-year-old child, so they have to speak to me like I'm a 4-year-old child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. But I think that takes it back to this thing, like, you know, how you're talking about my accent and your accent. The way that we speak in class is completely different to the way that we speak outside class.
Yeah,
because I don't ask anybody. I don't say, "Do you like candy?"
It'd be really creepy.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
super
like,
creepy.
And then
Hey.
yes, I do.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah, it's kind of like if you listen to like David Bowie or Elton John, right? You listen to them sing and you listen to them talk, totally different.
Yeah.
Like you can hear the British accent, you know, like the David Bowie had a really thick, I mean, to me, it sounds like a really thick, like British accent. But when he sings, you just can't hear it, you know? It's a different sort of level, like type of communication, you know?
Yeah, it's exactly the way it is. And you have to speak in that kind of monotone because they just...
And it sounds very condescending, doesn't it?
It's so condescending.
It's just like, do you like apples?
It's also how my girlfriend's parents talked to me in Chinese when I went to their house. Like, ni hao. Ni hao.
I don't know how you did that. How did you do that? You spent 9 days there.
11.
Right? 11 days.
11.
See,
it was my second time.
I couldn't do it, you know. As nice as you know, as nice as people are, like even the nicest people in the world, even like, you know, even if it were like everybody was even English speaking people and they were in my country and I could communicate with them, 11 days with my girlfriend or my wife's family, I couldn't do it.
Hell no.
I just couldn't do it under any circumstance. It's just like,
I've done it now. I will never do it again. I've said this many times. I said this while I was there. I'll never do it again. And they're so nice.
Yeah.
That was so
that makes
nice.
it harder though, doesn't it?
It makes it so hard because, like, you know, I'd just be sitting there and, like, they don't speak Putonghua. They don't speak what people would think Chinese.
Yeah.
Like, they're not sitting there speaking Chinese. They're not sitting there speaking a language that I can understand.
Yeah.
They speak Shanxi Hua. I believe it's Shanxi Hua. And Shanxi Hua is kind of similar to Beijing Hua, which is pretty much Putonghua. It's you know, like it's just,
it's a little bit insane though, isn't it?
When they're in full flung and they're, you know, drinking.
Yeah.
It's basically taking somebody from New York and putting them in Manchester, you know.
But it isn't though, is it? It isn't, because, like, you know, I'm from Texas, I'm from Dallas, and people, I tried to do my accent the other day and I feel like I'm losing it. I can't do the Texas accent as much, but I'm going to try. It's like, I'm from Texas, you know. Like people from Texas, my mom and my dad, they talk like they're, you know, they're from Tex. You go to New York City and talk to people and they know that you from the South. My accent isn't as good as it used to be, but, you know, whatever. I used to talk like that. And, you know, when I was a kid, actually, you know, I think I was 11 or 12 years old, and I found this video. It was a home video of me and my brother when we were really young. We were like 5 or 6, and we were opening Christmas presents. And I watched this video in just absolute horror because I could hear my accent. You know, I thought I sound like a hick, like, you know, like a straight up like hick, you know. And so I actually worked for years to get rid of my accent. I did it on purpose because I felt dirty. I know that sounds bad. Like I don't have anything, you know, a person's accent doesn't dictate their intelligence necessarily, but it definitely, it gives off the impression to other people, especially people that aren't from the South, that you're dumb. I mean, it just does, you know? Like, you know, your average person from New York, they hear that accent and they think, oh, this guy's slow, you know? It's just, I don't know why, but it's just, you know.
It's because it's slow. It's because it's coming out slow.
Yeah, that's true. They call it a drawl.
Yeah.
A southern drawl.
In Australia, we have the same sort of thing, like people from Melbourne or Sydney. Probably not so much Brisbane. Queensland's a bit of an enigma in that way. But, you know, like you can tell if somebody's from the territory.
Yeah.
Well, territory, yeah.
And there are negative connotations to that, right?
Well, not really, because we're still. Well, it depends who it is. Like, you know, like we still kind of like that country bushranger. Like 95% of people in Australia, or whatever the statistic is, but a lot of
95%.
A lot of people live on the coast, like a lot.
Oh,
like
yeah,
on
yeah.
the east coast of Australia, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, and the towns that run along there.
I think it's the most habitable land, right?
But
like it's the easiest land to survive on. Isn't there a lot of empty sort of space that is just like desert wasteland?
Yeah. Most people live there, but a lot of people like identify with the outback.
Yeah.
Even though
so it's like
some of them have never been to the outback, would never go to the outback, wouldn't know what to do if they were in the outback.
It's like sort of how John Wayne, like kind of a cowboy thing, like a tough sort of like rugged thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's how people look at Australians from the rest of the world anyway. Well, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but in America, it's like yeah, like that person from Australia, he's like rugged, you know? I don't know, they have this weird, like I'm sure you've seen the Beck's commercial. Is it Beck's? I don't think it is Beck's. There's like, what is the Australian for beer? What is that? You don't know what that is? I forgot the name of the beer. I gotta look it up. So there's this beer.
Foster's.
Yeah, Foster's. That's what it is. Foster's.
Nobody drinks Foster's.
And so, but the commercials were like, I can't remember an example, but I just remember that it was like they would show examples of like ruggedness or like, yeah, people from Australia are like tough, and they're like, yeah, we drink Foster's, Australian for beer, and the guy would slam the beer down on the table, you know, and like.
Well, where I'm from, we drink things called they're called Milton Mangoes.
Milton Mangoes?
Milton Mangoes.
Sounds very fruity though. Milton Mangoes.
It's just
Is that beer?
It's a beer in a can, and it's a gold can. They're called Goldies, 4X Gold.
It's just like a brand.
And it's people call them Milton Mangoes.
Oh.
And the brewery is Castlemaine, the Castlemaine Brewery.
You don't drink Foster's?
And it's in the middle. It's like in the middle of the city of Brisbane, and it's such a landmark, I believe, that there's certain points in the city where you have to be able to like see the brewery, so you can't build skyscrapers in front of it. Like it has to be able to be seen, and that's because it's in a place called Milton, like a suburb of the city. That's why they call them Milton Mangoes. And they have this other one, and it's like a kind of a dark red, and it's like a bitter, 4X bitter.
Yeah.
And that's called I believe they call it the Castlemaine Cranberry.
Did you say that it's a requirement to be able to see the plant from anywhere?
No, from certain places, certain landmarks in the city.
You have to be able to see the plant.
Yeah.
Who implements this?
So
this
that's
law?
like the council, like basically zoning laws prevent you from from building giant skyscrapers. It's basically
It's
in
for
front
aesthetic,
of the river.
right?
Yeah. It's in front of the river. It's pretty close to the river, and it's a beautiful old building from the 1900s.
That's pretty cool.
They still make the beer there. Like the beer is still brewed,
it's
bottled.
like sort of identified with that area.
Yeah.
Like it's like a
without a doubt.
I lived in Maryland. I lived in Baltimore for 10 years, and in Baltimore they have the
crack.
Well, they have crack. They got a lot of crack, but people don't really identify crack with I mean, maybe people do, but I don't know. That's not something that's like, approved by the government. Like we need to, there's something that somebody would be proud of. They have the Utz chips. Do you know Utz? Like they have the Utz girl. She's like, I don't know. She's an Utz girl. She's like it's like a famous thing in Baltimore. And then there's the Natty Bo guy. The national, that's the beer,
Natty Bo.
Natty Bo is National Bohemian. I'm pretty sure it's brewed in like Milwaukee or something, but like it's associated with Baltimore for some reason. And I remember there were advertisements where like he was proposing to her, like the Natty Bo guy was proposing to the Utz girl.
The beer guy's proposing to the chips girl.
Yeah, and
beer and chips are pretty good.
Okay, beer and chips are good. Natty Bo is not good, but people will crucify you for saying that in Baltimore. Like people were very serious about like if you went to a party, it was like, and you brought a case of Natty Bo, everyone's like, yeah, Natty Bo. Like they identified with it,
Yeah.
That's like the Baltimore version of what you're saying. And the building that they had the big Natty Bo guy's face. Like there are people with tattoos of this guy.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm from Baltimore. It was a very Baltimore thing. But the building was also very old.
What do you reckon people here identify with? What do you think that'd be like? Like I have some things like definitely for Brisbane, Queensland. Queensland is a state in general. Like there's rugby league, Castlemaine breweries, Bundy rum, Longreach. Like there's Suncorp Stadium, like Ballymore. There's things that if you say these things to anybody, it doesn't matter if they're like, they could be an anthropologist living in the Cape, they could be a businessman living in Brisbane city proper in like a fancy, going to cafes, or they could be a cowboy out west, like in this whole geographic area. Everybody knows what these things are.
Yeah.
And everybody has a little bit of pride about like, well, yeah, right on. That's King Wally. That's King Wally. He's drinking a Milton Mango.
Are you talking about
like
Shanghai or China?
I'm talking about Shanghai. Like I know for my girlfriend in her hometown, there's like this certain type of noodles, and I think if she was walking down the street in New York or down the street in Brisbane or wherever else in the world, if she like saw this certain type of noodle that's made in her hometown, like she'd fanboy out. Just like if I was walking down the road and I saw somebody drinking a Milton Mango or wearing a Brisbane Broncos jersey, I would have to stop and just be like, "How you going? Hey, you're from Brisbane. Like you are from Brisbane."
Yeah.
And I don't feel that there's anything here like that. I don't feel anything.
I don't know
like
if my wife was here, we could ask her. She's not native to Shanghai, but maybe she'd have a little bit of a better understanding of that. I think in the West, I mean, at least where I'm from, people don't really, they don't know much about this country, especially like regionally specific things, So like, I showed you the text the other day about Jackie Chan. Like if you ask anyone, like to name somebody famous from China, like somebody that's alive and is famous, like in the West, most people will say, like, as sad as that is, most people will say like Jackie Chan. He was on the gala. He was on the New Year's gala. It's he's like the guy from China. But in terms of like brands, I have no idea. I really have no idea.
Not even brands, like icons, just like iconic things.
I don't know. Did you ever see the play that's downtown about the French concession? You never saw that? It's called, I forgot what it was called. It's called something that I really should remember. I've seen it twice. I saw it with my parents. And I don't know, maybe if you watch that, you can see like that they have, I don't know. I think that Shanghai is more like they identify with Western ideals more so than like Beijing, right? They identify with Western ideals, and like it's very much like if you want to call any part of China like the most capitalist, it's going to be Shanghai, right?
Shenzhen. Shenzhen for sure. You haven't been to Shenzhen, have you?
No, I haven't. I've only been a couple of.
Shenzhen is it's ridiculous. Like it's Shenzhen is like your Silicon Valley. Like if you want pure venture capitalist, that's Shenzhen. Shanghai's like your Paris and New York. It's like your hipsters.
Yeah, but it's it has that very sort of materialistic element to it, you know.
Oh, completely.
And that's, I think, what I would take away with me. It's not, I mean, it's not exactly what you're talking about, you know, like it's not an iconic thing. It's more of like it's a very broad thing. But if I take, you know, I leave here and I think back years and years later, I sort of would remember Shanghai as being very Manhattan-esque.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's obviously a lot different. It has its own energy, but that sort of materialism, I don't want to say it like it's like materialism, like just blind materialism, but, you know, that's the sort of, you know, there are a lot of people with money, you know, work ethic is something that's supposed to be really important here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude works all day, and if he gets up early in the morning, he's always working, and like he's a businessman, he's always on his phone. That's considered, you know, that's a good guy. That's a, you know, he's got good work ethic. I think that values are much different here. I mean, you know, people like work ethic is important in the States, but it's looked at differently. You know what I mean? Like, it's just looked at differently. If you're a guy in America and you figured out how to sit on your ass and do nothing all day and make lots of money, people would like respect you. But I feel like here it'd be like, oh, he doesn't do anything, you know? If you, like I said, you know, if I sleep in, my wife gets upset with me. If I sleep in, she's like, you're being lazy, you know?
Yeah.
But if I think if I had $100 million and I slept in, I'm pretty sure she would still be upset with me. I don't think it's a matter of like, I don't think it's really a matter of what you have, but rather like your work ethic.
Yeah.
The work ethic thing is really important.
I get that. Like, my girlfriend's cousin at Spring Festival, they were just absolutely convinced that he didn't study hard enough.
How old is he?
He's 14.
Oh, okay.
So he'd spent part of his holiday at a so they were from up near Taiyuan, and he spent half his holiday down in Guangzhou at a summer soccer camp representing like the state.
Yeah.
So he made like the state team, I guess. He's down there, and he basically spent all of his time at the grandparents' house, and they like set up a little room for him. And he would wake up, the grandma would cook him breakfast about 6. He would have 2 hours off for lunch. Then the afternoon, they let him go to the park for like 2 hours.
This is during the spring?
During the spring holidays.
During the vacation?
During the vacation. So he'd go from 6 to 12, start again about 2, go to about 6, have 2 hours off. Because her family's all opera singers, they stay up really late. So they do things like later than most people because, you know, that's...
Because you said they're opera singers, right? So they work late.
Yeah.
So they do like nighttime stage production
Yeah,
stuff.
so like dinner for them is like...
they, how many people in this family are
like,
opera singers?
Granddad was a director, the grandma was an opera singer, the mum is an opera singer, the dad is an opera singer, the auntie is an opera singer, the uncle does something else.
Have you seen them sing opera?
I have. There's stuff on Baidu and stuff, yeah. Yeah, they sing opera.
That's pretty cool. I mean...
Yeah, well, that's good for me that, like, you know, they're nice. But even a family like that, like a family of what we would consider artists.
Yeah.
Like if somebody back home was like an opera singer...
I mean, they are artists. That's what they do.
Yeah, you're just like, well,
they're performers.
Performing artist. But still to have this kid, like, to watch this study routine, you know, like... on his holiday.
Yeah, during his vacation.
And it's just like I just felt so drained because we just had to do things. And then there was lulls where there just wasn't anything to do. and because I wasn't really in the clique, I wasn't doing things. And
Yeah.
if they weren't doing things, like if her uncles or her granddad had a bit too much baijiu at lunch, and there was things to do, and they didn't want to do those things, they would just go and sleep, because then they weren't expected to do the things. And they would wake up.
I can't sleep at midday. I just can't do that.
Dude, if you've eaten for like an hour and a half and you've drunk between 3 or 4 people 2 or 3 bottles of baijiu, some red wine, it's
at like 1 or 2 though in the afternoon.
1 or 2 in the
I can't
afternoon,
do it.
And then you continue to do it again at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's very easy to sleep. I don't know. I just feel like day drinking with lots of food. It's like napping. It's nap territory.
You know what? I don't ever really day drink. I mean, if I go out for like a fancy lunch or something, maybe I'll drink a beer. But normally I don't drink until the evening. You know, after I'm done with everything that I need to do. If there's something I need to do, I could probably do this. I could probably drink and like talk or whatever. And
that's basically what it is. Spring festival. All these people rock up at somebody's house. The host like cooks food. The host didn't eat. It was really weird. I found that really weird. The person that hosts like the female, like, so if we went to one of the uncle and auntie's houses, they would sit everybody down, and she would keep cooking and keep bringing out dishes, take dishes away, bring dishes, and he would sit there and eat and drink. I don't know if I've only been in one person's house, so I don't know how normal this is. But yeah, I don't usually have a banquet lunch every day for 10 days drinking bottles of baijiu and red wine either. You're like, usually
true.
I'm at work, you know.
Yeah, they really like to eat. That's like during the holidays, that's what people do here.
They just eat.
When my parents came for my wedding, my mom said to me one day during a lunch, she said, "I don't think I've ever seen you eat this much, ever. You're just eating so much." And I had to think about it. I realized, like, back before the baby, we used to go out to eat a lot when we had like money. We had time and money, and like we were young and free. And we went to we went out to eat a lot, and I guess I did eat more than I did when I was in the States. When I was in the States, it was never like you eat to. I mean, people eat for pleasure, and I know there are people that really, really eat. I mean, the States, people are big, that eat for pleasure, but it was more like, if at lunch you have to eat just because you need to fill your belly up or whatever, you just eat something, it's not that big of a deal. But here, when people eat, they really like to eat. They sit down and eat and eat and eat. Like, is fast food really a thing here?
Do you eat that much, though?
Do I eat that much now?
No, but I mean, like, when you sit down and eat like that, like, oh, sorry about that. I know some people eat a lot.
I can eat a lot. It depends. If I drink a couple of beers, I can eat a lot.
Yeah.
I can eat a lot, but I mean, it depends on the food too, the kind of mood that I'm in. It depends on how much coffee I had. It depends on a lot of different things, but in the right setting, if I'm stress-free, like during the wedding, it was during the holiday. It was during the National Day holiday.
Yeah.
And I was free. I just had gotten married. My parents were there. I was jovial. You know what I mean? I felt like good. So I could eat a lot. Yeah, whatever. I'm just sitting down eating. I don't really have to worry about things. I drink a couple beers. I don't have to go to work. But on a normal day, I'm in a hurry.
It's like for me, it's one of those things though. And for people that are listening to this that haven't been to China and haven't had these big banquets, basically what they have is they have a giant circular table, yeah,
the one they spin,
and then
around.
They have like a lazy Susan on top, and they put if there's 20 people, there's basically a dish for every person, but you share the dishes.
Yeah.
So to me, the plate sizes are the same as what we'd get in Australia. It's like if you had a bottle of liquor and you were pouring drinks.
Yeah.
Like you're pouring drinks, you're adding Coke, say you're having a rum and Coke, or, like a Jack Daniel and Coke, and you're pouring it in, and you pour yourself a nip or double nip, you put a bit of Coke. The bottle goes... Sorry.
Did you say a nip?
Yeah, like we call it a nip. Like
it's like a shot.
Yeah. Okay. You put like a nip or whatever in. And you drink that, like, if you're sitting around drinking with your friends... I feel like that bottle would go a lot faster than if you're sitting there taking shots.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that when you're eating with Chinese people. Like you're using chopsticks.
Yeah.
So the amount that you're putting in your mouth every time is actually less, and you're actually spending longer to eat. But maybe you're not actually eating more food. To me, it just kind of feels like that. You know, like people say, if you want to feel hungry, you should eat slower.
Yeah.
Like
No,
Chinese
if you want to
people
feel
eat
full,
yeah.
you want to feel full, you eat slower because it takes your brain, I think, a little while to process how full that your
sometimes
stomach
I
is.
feel like after I eat those banquets, I feel like I've eaten so much.
Yeah.
But an hour later, I'm hungry.
But you eat a lot over an extended period of time, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, in America, I mean, for banquet, for like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, they do share food. It is common to share food.
Yeah.
But for a typical meal, when you go out, you order a plate of food and you eat your plate of food. If I order like nachos or whatever, I miss nachos. I really like nachos. I think about Mexican food all the time. Like, there's only a couple of places here to get good Mexican food.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. But if I order a plate of nachos, they're mine. And for somebody, if my wife was like, "Can I have some of those?" It'd be okay. But if somebody else that I didn't really know really well that was sitting there with us was like, "Hey, can I have some of your nachos?" It'd be kind of like, really? You want to eat my nachos? You know, it'd be kind of rude.
Well, it'd be very odd if you're sitting there and 6 people at a table, a rectangular table, and you were just like taking food from each other's plates. Like that's
that's a fundamental difference here. I don't know if it's like this in this whole country. I assume so. I think you go to the restaurant, you never tip have you ever tipped at a restaurant here?
No.
You just don't tip in China. And
we don't tip in Australia.
You don't tip in Australia
we don't tip
either?
in Australia, no.
Oh.
We pay a basic living minimum wage that people can actually live on.
Yeah,
they don't do that here either.
That's not any of my concern, though. I didn't make those decisions. I always tip.
Yeah.
Because I've just been taught to do that.
Yeah.
So when I leave a restaurant here, I don't know how many times I've asked my wife, like, should we leave a tip? She's like, no, don't leave a tip. We don't tip. You don't tip the hairdresser. You don't tip so it's weird just not to what if you get a tattoo? You tip your tattoo guy if you get a tattoo in China. Have you ever had one here?
No, I've only had them in Japan.
Oh, okay. What was I saying? Oh, about the portions or whatever. Like, you can eat a lot. You can eat a lot of food. You eat a lot from, like, other people's plates or whatever. It's a much different experience. The dude or woman, whatever, the person that orders the food here, normally you sit down. Like, the first meal that we had was with Boss Man from the school that I still work at.
Yeah.
And he sat down, and I think it was my first, Chinese meal. It was Japanese food, but it was my first experience with that kind of, And he just ordered all the food. I don't even think we looked at the menu. He ordered the food, he ordered the drinks, and we just all ate from each other, from all the plates, That's normal in China. In America, it's just not normal. You just don't eat food from other people's plates. So it's sort of, I guess there's some sort of a communal thing that's going on. I wouldn't exactly call this like a collectivist society. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in a lot of areas, like, the social dynamics are like that. I think it's more with family though, and with people that are closer to you than it is with, you know what I mean? Like, people that are close to you, you would help them cross the street.
You're not like, sometimes you have to, the restaurants, especially downtown Shanghai, are packed. Like, I'm not just going to be eating from somebody I've never met's bowl. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, but to extend it beyond that, if you have, if you see somebody that's crossing the street and they need help or whatever, some old person that you help them cross the street. If you don't know them, maybe you'll push them out of your way so you can, you know what I mean? Like, the way that people behave toward their family and friends and the way they behave toward strangers is very, very different. So to call this a collectivist society would be just disingenuous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are more, I think, collectivists when it comes to like close social circumstances like that, like eating,
Yeah, and the fact that most people here live generational, Like,
Yeah.
there's a few generations living in a house.
Oh my God, yeah. I couldn't do that.
No,
I couldn't do that at all. You know, when I was a kid, I enjoyed visiting my grandparents because, like, they bought me stuff and they let me get away with things that my parents wouldn't. Like, I could watch Batman. I really liked... You remember the Michael Keaton Batman movies? I really liked those movies. My parents wouldn't let me watch them. But my grandma would let me rent those and watch them. Because I just... she would ask, would your mom be okay with this? And I'd be like, yeah. So, you know, it was cool, but, like... It would have been really, really strange for me to live there, or for her to, like, raise me, you know. That's at some point. We don't. I don't want to do it today because I feel like we need to get more in the groove of this before we get into, like, stories. And I want to make a video on my channel about, like, about the baby. I took a lot of footage about when the baby was born and everything, but the differences in child rearing. Sounds really dirty.
Rearing children.
On rearing children. That's what it's called, though. It's the differences in, like, raising children are just, they're fundamental. They're very, very different. You know, it's much more common here for grandparents to raise the children than it is for the parents.
Yeah, there's also stuff like a fever.
A fever?
Yeah, when a child has a fever, I was absolutely brought up in Australia, you need to lull the fever. You need to get rid of it. You need to cool the body. Here, they just pack on the clothes. They make the kid as warm as possible.
Yeah, because they think that the cold is what made them sick.
Yeah, so they don't let them. They don't let them get cold. And you know, my girlfriend will have a fever and she will heat herself up, and the fever will go away. And I'll have a fever and I'll cool myself down, and the fever will go away. It's really...
Yeah, it's, you know... It's also a big difference in how like people look at medicine.
Yeah,
I had a really big argument.
She said it cooks. It cooks they believe that it cooks the bug or the bacteria. Like if your body temperature gets too high, you die.
Yeah, but it has to get really high. You know, like I had an argument with my wife the other day about, I think I told you about traditional Chinese medicine versus Western medicine, and yeah. There are big differences in how these things are looked at. You know, like when they go to school, when people go to medical school here, they learn both. And they sort of, I don't know, somehow they connect them together. And I was, you know, my stance on this is that science-based medicine is factual, whereas homeopathy and Eastern medicine and mysticism is just, it's not science. It doesn't mean, you know, I think that what she was not understanding about what I was saying is I wasn't saying that all of traditional Chinese medicine is wrong. I was just saying that it's not all right, and that there aren't the correct checks and balances and processes that are in place in traditional Chinese medicine. Just like in America and with homeopathy, there are not, you know, there's no scientific method, there's no body, there's no collective body that governs how things are tested.
Yeah.
And I was just saying, she's like, there are good things about both, but I don't think that's true. I think that when something within within traditional Chinese medicine, when it becomes known that it's true, that it's factual, it moves from traditional Chinese medicine to science, and it becomes science, you know, and science is supposed to be based on fact and evidence. When things are found to be wrong, they're thrown out. But what, you know, it's like saying that, like, that astrology is correct because there are aspects of it that might be true, you know, or that, like, alchemy is a valid system of science, but it isn't. But you can take elements of that, and you can elements that are falsifiable, and you can see things that are real. You can prove that something is real or that something's wrong, and that information moves into the realm of science. This is what I was trying to tell her. Like, but she clings on to she thinks that both are, she's much more of a middle ground person than me, you know? But, like, I don't know. Like, we have these people, and I don't know if you had the homeopathy thing.
Quacks.
Yeah.
Quacks. I'd call them quacks.
But, you know, they were...
Tiger bones, fucking... Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I have a potty mouth. But tiger bones or crystals or...
Tiger bones?
Well, here's the thing that, like, tiger bones will, you know, give you a big lasting erection when you're old if you drink a tea made from tiger bones. and it's just not correct. And it's no
big lasting erection.
yeah, a big throbbing member, but it's no more. It's no more.
They grind it up.
Yeah, they make.
Did they do this in Australia?
No, here, and it's no more correct than those people that think if they put crystals at certain places in their bed, they're gonna get a big lasting like. No, because we know that
everybody's going after erections.
It's to do with blood flow, like, you know, like it cannot in any way help in any form. Like, no, quacks.
I have a question before we go on. How long does that camera?
Give us a look.
Does it beep when it goes off?
Yeah, it's been on for 48 minutes.
Does it beep when it goes off?
It's on its last legs. It's definitely on its last legs.
So I think they'll both go off at the same time. We'll just replace the battery or whatever.
Yeah, mine doesn't have a battery though.
You have to charge yours.
Yeah, but I can.
I have. You know what? I have another camera.
So what do we say? We'll have a coffee break. Charge the cameras.
We're at 15 minutes to an hour. I say we get to an hour and then we'll be like, yeah, look at us. How awesome are we?
We've done our first podcast.
It wasn't so bad, right?
No, it wasn't so bad. I think
we're just talking.
It's pretty much
I imagined it like this entertainment hour, you know, where we're like, let's say lots of funny things, you know.
Well, I think it first started off pretty.
It's pretty bad.
Pretty like awkward.
First 10 minutes was pretty bad.
And then we started having a conversation. I think when we get more comfortable, our conversations will become more natural, and they are way more hilarious. Because we have some hilarious conversations. But then there's certain things that you can say in private that you don't want to bring up to.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like I can, you know, say things and.
I mean, I'll talk about most things on my channel, or I'll talk about for the most part I don't have a problem, and the things that I shouldn't talk about are things that I shouldn't, not things that I don't want to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are things you shouldn't say or whatever, depending on where you're located in the world. And it doesn't matter. I don't have any opinions. I just...
yeah.
I mean, I have opinions. I just don't really care. I just don't really care one way or the other. I think we should do a thing about, like, you know, at some point about what's going on in America and what, like you were saying, what Australia thinks about Trump. But I feel like that'd be going off topic right now.
No, let's do that now, because this is pretty big. I'm Australian.
Yeah.
You're American. We live in China.
Yeah.
And there's this like menage a trois going on here. The TTP, the Trump, the fucking boat people, the
boat people.
Well, there is, because Australia has a problem. Like, lots of people come to Australia on boats and then they put them in detention centres.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
People have been in detention centres for a really long time, and people in Australia don't want these people to come because they
what
think
are
they're
the
terrorists.
Conditions of these detention centres?
I don't know, man. Like, obviously I've never been to one. I know that every now and again people get on the roofs and they riot, or some people have babies in there and people say they should take babies to Australia, and they should. Kids shouldn't be in detention centres like that.
So when they have kids, the kids have to stay in the...
I don't know.
Is it like a little island sort of society where they just... But it's not like a prison.
Yeah, it's a prison.
It's a prison?
Well, there was one where apparently the guards, like... I don't know if this is even true. I can't tell what's true in the news anymore or not. Like, all this.
Did you just say the gods?
The guards.
Oh, the guards.
Apparently, there was a big fight, and the guards raped some women, and like there are guards, and
yeah,
you know, like it. But it's like, picture like a minimum security prison with just big fences and barbed wire, and they're on an island.
Where are all these people from?
Mostly from, I think, a range of places, but majority come from the Middle East.
So they're not deported. They're not sent back. They just they keep them in Australia, or is there sort of a process?
Australia doesn't technically break the Refugee Convention. So if somebody, what they do is they have a huge navy that runs at the top of Australia, and they find boats, and they have an agreement with Indonesia. Right, so they find them just before they get to Australian waters.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's boats that make it into Australian waters, and they hook them up, and they tow them to an island, Manus Island. and Manus Island is where they put them.
And they keep them there.
And they keep them there. Yeah.
See, that seems kind of strange to me. Like,
it was a policy by.
Is there like a? Are they saying, look, you're breaking this law. You're breaking a law. We're gonna hold you here because you're breaking a law, or we're gonna hold you here because like we can't. There's nothing else that we can do with you.
We're gonna hold you here until we find out who you are. Whether we can, your claims of whether you are an actual refugee.
So if they're refugees, they're allowed to sort of like assimilate.
They bring people in. There's lots of they send and they have to find places too. You know, like when Australia has, I don't know how it is for America, but we have a pretty solid like social security network. So
we do not.
Saying you can make it to Australia, like you're gonna get housing. You get free education, free healthcare, and after a while, you're going to get a payment. Like
penguin?
A payment.
Oh. I was going to say, wow, Australia's amazing.
Like you're going to get money. Like I'm pretty sure they give. I don't know if this is true. We could probably look it up on the Centrelink website, but the Department of Human Services. I'm pretty sure there's a refugee payment.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, like I mean, I don't know. I've never been a refugee, but I have been a citizen of the United States of America, and I was not given a house. Right? Wow. I didn't even have health care. Really, I don't have health care now. I really I was never given anything. I mean, when I went to school, I had to pay for my school. I got some. They weren't loans. They were like government assistance, like financial aid to go to school. But certainly I was never given a house. No, I was never given anything like that. Yeah, I know we have welfare, and I know people that have been on welfare or, I worked in special education, and I'm familiar with there are people that do get assistance, but yeah. I don't know about the refugees. I really don't. One of the reasons I don't talk about politics, I mean, besides I wanted to keep in terms of the channel, the YouTube channel, I wanted to keep that kind of apolitical. I tried to do on election day, I tried to do a video about the Trump win and everything, but I felt like it just didn't fit in the context of, travel or whatever. And I'm ignorant really in that area because I used to be really into politics, and now I just it just takes up too much emotion. You know what I mean?
It does because you're either ignorant, you're right, or you're wrong. Yeah. And depending on where you're standing in the triangle,
yeah,
that's one of the three you are. You're either if you're standing with Trump supporters and you support Trump, you're right. If you're standing with non-Trump supporters you support Trump, you're wrong. If you're standing with people that don't care and you don't care, you're it's this.
Yeah, but some people will have the ultimate disdain for the person like me who didn't vote, who doesn't really care. I mean, I do care,
but not if you're around other people like that. So it's either you're right, you're wrong,
or you don't,
or you're ignorant.
I mean, but that's like a spectrum. So there's more things. Like you could be a little bit right about certain things, a little bit wrong about certain things.
But it depends who you're with. I completely depends who you're with. Oh, my camera's off.
Your camera. But mine's still. Let's see what. Hold on. I got a couple more minutes.
So you're sitting in. This is how I view America from somebody from the outside that hangs around with Americans every now and again. Say you're raised in a pretty progressive society, like just outside the Castro district in San Francisco. Your next door neighbor, your best friend has two dads.
Two black dads.
To whatever, and you're transgendered, and you grow up knowing that you're a boy, but your genitalia doesn't match that, and everybody's like, that's cool, like who cares? And then you go to a place like Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Like you're just wrong. Like you're just wrong. So politics is like that. That's why I don't participate in it anymore.
You're right. There's a subjective element to it that's just kind of.
You can never win. You can never win. You're either like preaching to the choir. Or you're singing Justin Bieber at a Slayer concert. Like you're getting overrun. You know, like it doesn't. That's it. That's the way I see it. You're either preaching to a choir, or you're singing you're trying to hum Katy Perry, like during an Opeth concert. Like nobody's gonna hear you. Like they don't care. They couldn't give a shinoodle. A shinoodle.
Isn't that's really interesting about like curse words? Like you could say like F you to someone and it's okay and they'll let it on TV. I don't know if it's still like this or not, or you can say shh. Like, you know, like, oh, like I heard it was called a rap attack the other day on my iPad. I have all these Eminem like B-sides, and it was like 3 different songs, one by Snoop Dogg, one by Eminem, one by Dr. Dre. It was like, I don't remember even what the songs they were, but they kept like I guess he was on MTV. It was a broadcast on MTV, so they kept censoring themselves. So instead of saying like shit, they would say shh. And I was like, what is even I don't even understand what the point is. Because what do you think about it, right? When someone says shh, that's what you think is shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like people censor words, and it's like, oh, I wonder what word. It kind of forces your mind to think more about that word than you would have if they had just said it. You know what I mean? May as well just say it. It just, you know, cussing is okay. It just shouldn't be like excessive. And not because it's offensive, but because it takes away from legitimate commentary. You know what I mean? Like it sort of adds kind of maybe it's a little cheap, you know? I use it a lot. I cuss too much. I know that I cuss too much, but it is a sort of way to mask like, oh, if I just add these cuss words in, it's more funny.
Yeah, I think it's not that it's more funny. I think Australians do it because we kind of tend to speak in a monotone, and all languages are tonal. Like your voice rises up and down. It moves around. Like if I ask you why, my voice is why. It's going to go up. So because Australians kind of speak in a monotone and we shorten all the words, so I'm going down the survey. Yeah. You want any shit? The shit at the end. Yeah. Do you want any stuff? Like it's saying, you want any stuff? You want some shit? Like it's not such like a bad thing. It's just like this kind of way to. And it's you're right. It's
just a word though.
Well, yeah, but
it doesn't mean anything.
It is like pretty low class, but
I mean, it has low class, but like what you're describing is just using a word.
For me, it's kind of normal. It's like nearly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Dialect.
So, you know, people are offended by certain words because they're meant to be offensive. So if I say, like, my wife doesn't like it when I cuss, which is funny because I, you know, like, she was like, you never cussed, you know, when I first met. And I didn't. Because when I first met her, I was still sort of feeling her out, you know. Like, I was just.
With the fingers up there.
This is a Freudian thing. I didn't even realize I'd done that. I was scratching my ear. That's what I was doing. But I was, you know, trying to sort of feel out the, you know, how she would respond to certain things. You know? So obviously I didn't show up and be like, yeah, like I'm an English teacher. I don't have any money. Like, and, you know, cussing and, you know, I was very polite. And so it took a while for her to, you know, come to terms with she still married me. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like we got married the next day. It was 5 months. Only 5 months later we got married. But, you know, she doesn't like it when I cuss. And when she's okay if I cuss when I'm just talking. You know what I mean? It's she doesn't like it, but it's better. But if I'm angry with her and I cuss, that's a very big deal.
Oh yeah.
She gets really, really upset.
I think that's like kind of crossing a line.
I mean, I'm not like insulting her, but if I'm trying to make a point, you know what I mean? And I use certain words to accentuate my point. Accentuate, is that the right word? To, you know, to highlight it. Yeah. She gets mad. It's not, I would never say like F you. I would never say that to her. Yeah. But maybe if I'm talking about this, like, you know, this effing thing. Why am I say effing now? Like I feel weird. Yeah. I'm censoring myself on my own.
I get it too, because sometimes I get really, really annoyed. It annoys me. Like I'll be sitting on the couch and my girlfriend, because all right, there's this thing out there that Chinese Asian women are all submissive. That is complete.
Okay, let me just to explain so people understand. people from the West have a tendency to believe that Asian women are naturally submissive, right? So guys are like, yeah, I'm gonna go to China and there's all these girls and all I have to do is just show up and they'll be, and you're right, they're not at all. But we're in Shanghai and women in Shanghai
so demanding.
Are the opposite of that.
They're so demanding.
The men in Shanghai are submissive.
Yes.
The women are like, you need to buy me lots of stuff, and you need to buy me a house. You need to buy my parents a house.
Luckily, my girlfriend's not like that.
Yeah, my wife's not like that either, but it is, the stereotype of me love you long time. It's that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist here.
I have not seen it at all.
Maybe
I can be sitting down. I've just eaten dinner. We're watching. Maybe we put a TV show on while we're eating dinner because we eat from a few plates. We eat Chinese style. We don't eat Western style. It takes at least 35 to 40 minutes to eat dinner.
Yeah.
All right. So we're sitting down eating dinner. Dinner's finished. I usually finish eating first because I eat all the meat. And I get full up on the meat and rice, and then I pick at the vegetables. Whereas she eats the vegetables first, and then whatever meat's left over, she'll eat whatever I've left.
Yeah.
So I usually finish first, and I'll sit there and I'll probably have either a cup of chamomile tea or a beer, or lately it's been soju, Korean soju. Have a nice little cup of soju. And I'll sit there and I'll have that, and then she'll finish. Even though the TV show's on, she'll turn it off and she'll be like, "We have to clean up now." And I'll just be like, "Hold on, I'm watching that." There's no point. There's absolutely no point of being like, "Hold on, I'm watching that," because she's decided. She's decided that we're cleaning up now. We can go back and watch the TV later. Yeah. I could not imagine giving her my dishes and being like, "Wash my dishes." See, this subservient.
It's not exactly like that with my wife. We've sort of come to terms with our different roles. Before the baby was born, she made food. I talked to you about that the other day. Before the baby was born, she made food, and she every day. And I did the dishes. So she would make the food. We never talked about it. It's just she was like, she didn't know how to cook and she wanted to learn how to cook, so she started making food. Yeah. And she liked to make pumpkins. She would make get pumpkins. She would get the little pumpkins, and she would excavate them and just fill them up with all sorts of weird stuff and make this baked pumpkin stuff all the time. And so that was nice. I ate food without having to make food. And I was like, this is great, and I did the dishes. And then after the baby was born, everything just shifted. So now we're both a lot busier. So if it's a day that I don't have to go to work until late, I make food. There's just no question, I used to ask her, "Are you hungry?" Yeah. She'd say yes. Now I know when she's hungry. I know when she's not hungry. After 5 o'clock, she doesn't eat. She just doesn't. She doesn't eat in the evening. She only eats in the morning. So I don't even ask her. If I come home at night, I make myself food. I never make her food because I just know she's not going to eat it. She has nightmares if she eats food at night, late at night. Well, that's late or whatever. But with her, it's a more subtle that whatever the opposite of submissive is. She's not either of those things. She's not submissive, but she's not demanding. But there is a kind of a passive aggressive if I did get up and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do something," I'm not gonna, and I don't mention food and I don't make her food, she would be furious, but she wouldn't say it. It just would, for the next couple days, she'd be angry. You know what I mean? And that's way worse. I would much rather her just yell at me and then it to be over than for a couple days. It's like, okay, why are you what's going on? Are you okay? Yes. Are you sure you're okay? You seem really upset. I'm fine. And then, I have to really get it out of her, Yeah. She's like, "Do you remember yesterday you didn't make me food?" It'd be like, it'd be like that.
And it'd just be like a relationship with any other woman anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's...
But she's much, much more reasonable than I've only been in 2 long-term relationships in my life, serious relationships. And she's much more reasonable than them. Much, much, much more. So our roles are not set in stone. You know what I mean? They're not easily like defined. If she goes out, I take care of the baby. We just do what we can do. I do what I'm good at, and she does what she's good at. And sometimes I have to do things I'm not good at, and she has to do things that she's not good at. It just that's how it works. But prior to that, I tell this story. Well, okay, I'm not going to tell this story. I'm not going to tell this story. So yeah, but she's not. You know what? She's not the stereotype that Western people think about Chinese women, but she's also not the stereotype that is known here either. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's reasonable, and she's normally very calm. She doesn't demand that. I mean, if she was like the materialistic sort of stereotype of the Shanghainese women, I wouldn't have been able to marry her. I wouldn't have made it past the first date.
Well, yeah, like my girlfriend has like tattoos and stuff.
Does she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she has many tattoos. She has a tattoo machine. She draws constantly and wants to quit her job and be a tattooist. But she apparently apprenticeships here to be a tattooist are really expensive.
Really?
Yeah, like you have to pay. Like
it's weird.
The shops like want 60,000 RMB.
Are you serious?
Yeah, for like a year. Yeah.
I guess it's like a training program. It's like a
it's
like a
just
school
like
thing.
Rocking up in their tattoo shop, and you probably do what all apprentices do, like clean the tattoo shop, clean the guns, get the colours ready, like sit there and draw sketches. When they come in, like you can write the words, like people want one character written, like you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so she's not traditional in that way, but like this submissive Asian. Like when I get home at night, I am gonna say this: I do have dinner like cooked and ready.
I don't.
Like I do, every night whenever I get home, like. But I'll tell you what: if I'm late, so like I like to do activities after my private lessons at night time. So sometimes I don't get home till 9:30.
Yeah.
And if I say I'm gonna be home at 9:30 and I'm home at like 9:40.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's bad.
Just the passive aggressive stuff you're talking about. Like.
My wife doesn't do that. She, you know, if I need to, if I need to go out and do something and I'm home late, she doesn't even question it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on, you know, what I'm doing. But like, you know, I went to see my friend the other day. She's okay with that. Sometimes she goes out to see her friends and I take care of the baby.
We're here right now, and
I
saw her this morning.
Yeah. She gave us. I sent her and the baby away, so we could do this. But you know, if she was here, even if the baby was not here, the tone would be a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? Because she'd be listening, and I don't. Everything I've said, I wouldn't mind. You know, obviously, she's like, I'm not sure where I'm gonna put this or what I'm gonna call this or how much association it's gonna have, but. With my channel, but technically she sort of owns half that channel because the business we set up to manage it, she owns half of. So, you know, anything I do, I don't have to get her permission, but she does need to be okay with the content. Yeah, because there's been things recently that we did that she did not approve of that I had to scrap. I had to scrap. So
scrap it.
But that's good because she's she's more in touch with. I think she's more sensitive than me. So I tend to, you know, I don't want to offend too many. I don't mind offending people, but I don't want to be intentionally offensive and get in people's faces, you know. I feel like, you know, my content is more like, you know. My neck. I know I need to pop. I pop all my joints, my knees and my fingers.
I gotta do it Shijiahui.
Huh?
It's like I gotta do it Shijiahui.
That pops your joints?
That gives me. Have you? Oh.
Have I ever had a massage by a man? No.
Copy?
Huh? I don't know what that is. What are you showing me?
The can you see the circles?
Yeah.
So like
those suction things where they like suck the...
They like those things. So basically,
why would you do something like that?
So they because I'm so big, because I'm so tall, like I have to bend over constantly. Not just
you're talking about the circular suction things that they stick to your skin and they're basically like giant hickeys on your back.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? It doesn't do anything.
So
we were talking about Eastern like medicine That's like sticking pins in your body and like, oh, this helps with circulation. Let me stab you like 7,000 times.
So the process is it's a massage. You go in there and they, like deep tissue massage.
By a man.
It's by a man, yes.
Is he attractive man?
I don't see him. My face is down.
You've never seen him?
Yeah, I don't take my clothes off.
But you've never seen the guy?
So
he's not there.
It's usually a different guy every time.
So you go into the room alone.
I go in the room. My girlfriend's usually there.
Your girlfriend's there with you?
Yeah.
You lay down and then some stranger comes that you don't see his face.
Sometimes I see his face.
And he gives you hickeys.
Yeah, he gives me hickeys. Huh. But yeah, like it's basically your normal everyday massage, and whatever. Usually tight spots from leaning over, having to bend my head all the time because the roofs are small, or the doorways, or the kitchen is smaller. Things that people don't think about. Tall people aren't made for this country. They're not. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll give you that.
Getting into taxi, everything is just incredibly more difficult.
Yeah.
So sometimes I get quite a tired and sore back.
Yeah.
And so, I go there, and then they do the chiropractor, like they pop it.
Yeah.
And which I know is not good, but it just like the relief is ridiculous.
You're talking about them cracking your back.
Yeah, like
yeah, because you don't know who that person is. You don't know who that person is or what kind of like.
It's the same dudes, and I trust that my girlfriend has vetted them.
I've never had my back cracked. It feels good.
Dude, like,
does it hurt?
No, they do the back and the neck.
Oh no!
Then they come in and they put those suction things on there.
Yeah, that's the part that I don't understand.
Yeah, I just do it because
but
I'm there, and
it doesn't actually serve a purpose.
But this is a part of living in China that even I don't agree with it. I don't think it's helping anymore. There's no point fighting about it. Like, she thinks that it helps. I don't think that it helps so much. I don't think that it harms me, right? I think that
doesn't it bust blood vessels or something though?
I have no idea what it does. It just basically brings the blood to the.
It's supposed to increase circulation.
Yeah, in the area that's hurt. Whatever. But the point is that I don't think it harms, and I don't think it helps. I think it's just literally. It takes 6 minutes.
I think I would pass out.
It's a little sucky, sucks you.
It's like something about it really bothers me. I think I would pass out.
Yeah.
When the doctors have to take your blood and they just prick they just prick your finger.
There's no pricking though.
I know that. Honestly, I feel like I'm gonna pass out.
This isn't acupuncture.
I know it's not acupuncture, but something about the idea of them manipulating your blood because they're sucking on and making the blood come to the surface or whatever. It's just something about it.
But don't you get it don't you get it with your wife that sometimes she helps you do something? So even if you don't want to do something, you kind of feel obligated.
I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that?
No, because I have sort of a phobia about things like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't let another person massage me either.
You wouldn't let another person massage you?
No, I mean, I'll let my wife do it, but a person that I don't know.
She doesn't know how to do it.
Well,
I'll let my girlfriend do it, but trust me, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I know, but something about that's my central nervous system. My spine's back there. I have a weird thing about I don't like being touched by other people. I don't like it. It really makes me uncomfortable.
What can you do?
And it's it's not I know it's a weird maybe an antisocial thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. I remember I used to work with this woman when I worked in special education. There was this woman. She was a hairdresser. She was like, "Oh, let me dye your hair." She wanted to dye it a brown or whatever, and I let her do it. She's a really weird woman. I let her do it, and it made me feel really nervous and almost dirty. You know what I mean? I had to take my shirt off, and she did this hair washing thing in the sink, and it was very, very uncomfortable. And I think the majority of people in the world would not feel uncomfortable about that. She was just touching the top of my head, But if I went in and a dude, it's not even. Yeah, actually it is. Actually it is.
Homophobic, huh?
It's not a homophobic thing. But
you keep saying a dude.
It's a dude, yeah, because
dude, like
I would rather be touched by a woman than a man.
Yeah, but he's a professional.
It's not
sexual.
A homophobic thing. It's not like
he's not. See, I don't see it as him touching me. I realize that he's touching me.
Yeah.
But like, if you go to a doctor, and like you're breaking your arm, like he's not touching you like your wife touches you.
No, but a massage is intimate. There's an intimacy involved, right?
No, not these types of massages.
I know, but I have always associated.
I know, like a sexy, sensual massage, but that is completely different to lying down on a table.
If you approach your girlfriend or your wife and you say, "Hey, like, can I give you a massage?" What does that mean? You just want to give a massage?
Oh yeah, it's
gone. So that's how I've always associated with it, and it's not like. Even if it was a strange woman, it still would be weird. But especially if it was like the way that I envision it, how you described it, it's like I go into the doctor's office and they're like, okay, go into the room. And I go in the room and it's really dark. And they're like, the doctor will be there after you lay down and put your head through the thing. Like he's like this mysterious person that sort of that just kind of appears out of nowhere, or he's hiding in the back,
Yeah.
And so then you go and you lay down and the guy comes in, but you don't look at him because you said you never saw his face. And then he does weird things to your back and like suctions your back or whatever. Maybe your girlfriend's sitting there. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. And then the doctor leaves. And so you get up and you've got all these suction things in your back and you feel better. He cracks your back or your neck or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is a guy you've never seen his face.
Well, of course I've seen their faces.
So then I have just envisioned this. So when I say a dude, I almost would feel more comfortable if it was a woman. I don't know why. But I feel like I've talked myself into a
yeah, I think you just got some kind of strange little thing about it. I think we're pretty off topic also.
Was there a topic? Remember when you brought your phone out and you were like, hey, we're going to talk about this thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, we can be done. We're at 1 hour and 16 minutes. It's 3:20.
Yeah, 3:20. I got to catch a metro about 4-ish, I guess.
Yeah, I should walk back and find my wife and child.
Yeah.
She's been very good though. She sent me some pictures of the baby earlier. Okay, so I'm gonna since we never really did a proper introduction, I feel like we don't need to do an extroduction either.
Extroduction.
Is that a word?
I don't think so.
People's an outroduction.
Outro.
Is outroduction a word?
I think it's just outro.
Because intro is short for introduction. Is outro an introduction?
Just call it outro.
So we're not even gonna say goodbye. I'm just gonna turn it off.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye. No, we're not gonna say goodbye because we didn't say hello.
Hello, goodbye.
We just were like, oh, let's just start talking,
Well, it's our first time.
So what I'm gonna do is like
ease it on in.
I'm gonna name this thing. I'm gonna maybe give it its own like YouTube channel. I'm gonna give it a name.
Yeah, have you done this before?
No,
I haven't.
I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
But I can do the video and audio stuff. I don't know how to do the podcast thing. But if somebody's insane enough to listen to us talk for like an hour and 15 minutes, I will ask that person for money. That's why I want to do this, because I want to make money. I know that podcast people are like super wealthy, and I want to be one of those. I want to be one of those super wealthy. I want to be one of those super wealthy podcast people.
I think there's only 2 that are super wealthy though, aren't there?
I don't think there's any.
Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, but he's that big muscular guy, right? Is that Joe Rogan?
Yeah, like.
And he's kind of like. I know who that is.
He's like the quintessential man.
Yeah, I think I've seen the show a couple times.
Ron Swanson. And I don't know, like, yeah, I'll listen to Joe Rogan.
I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts.
I listen to Joe Rogan and Dan Carlin.
Dan Carlin, that sounds familiar.
Dan Carlin does hardcore history.
Oh. I feel like I'm out of the loop on a lot of things.
Epic.
It's good.
But he doesn't talk to anybody about it. He just talks.
Oh. And I don't think I can hold a show by myself.
He just explains like things in history that happened. He'll just talk for like 4 hours about it. Apparently they take him like 3 or 4 weeks to do, because he's researching it. He writes a script.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then he just talks about like history.
I don't have that kind of...
He has a 5-part series on the Mongols, which is like 15 hours.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing.
You have to have some sort of like motivation. Not motivation, inspiration. No, that's not the right word either. Just organization. You have to be organized to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I would much rather just...
Yeah, well, it's his job now.
Yeah.
You know, like, went from just, like, talking about history to, you know, like, now he talks about history. But I think he was famous about something else also.
Yeah, it helps to be famous.
Yeah, I think the most famous podcasters were already actually famous. Whereas we're just, like, two dudes in Shanghai that kind of bored.
We're, like, negative famous.
Yeah.
There are, like, so few people that know us that, like...
Yeah. And I'd actually prefer, like, if I knew less people.
Or if you knew less people, or if less people knew you.
Well, no, just if I knew less people. I don't mind if people know me. I just, like... There's certain people I just like, yeah, didn't need to meet you.
Yeah, but they're interesting, right? No?
No, that's why I'm like, yeah, didn't need to meet you.
I think we're done.
Yeah.